So I think everybody is realizing just how powerful the Federal Reserve is. It doesn't matter what country you live in, you are affected by the economic policies pursued by the Federal Reserve.
This is the Demystifying Crypto and Building Wealth podcast.
I knew that would be worth trillions.
That had never existed in human history.
There's been massive opportunities.
The #1 podcast to help you understand and get insights into the crypto world, blockchain technology, wealth building, and financial investing. Now, here's your host, Tico Tawari, the world's #1 most trusted cryptocurrency analyst and Wall Street veteran with decades of experience in the financial space.
And so I remember when I was a younger man in the brokerage business, thinking about the Federal Reserve and being really shocked when I realized they did not care what the short-term implications of their policies would be on the everyday person. So friends, this is why it's so important to develop personal wealth. And that term personal wealth has really been denigrated in the current everyday American society at a level that I've never seen before. And I've been living in America since 1987. And so personal wealth does not mean that you have to do something wrong or put somebody else at a disadvantage for you to accumulate wealth. The only thing you need to do to accumulate wealth is to spend less than what you earn and then successfully invest the balance. Like if you do that over time, you will automatically create wealth. Now, did you hurt anybody to do that? Did you put anybody else at a disadvantage to do that? No, you put yourself at a disadvantage. You reduced your rate of consumption in order to have extra left over. And then that extra that was left over, you put it in an investment and hopefully it was successful and it helped grow your wealth. If you are not doing that, if you are watching me right now or anybody else on YouTube or wherever, and you're not doing that, you're never going to achieve any of the material goals that you want to achieve. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You must learn how to live on less than what you earn and invest the balance. And then the next trigger point you go after, once you learn how to live on less than you earn, the next thing you go after is figuring out, how do I earn more money? And that usually comes from getting better at what you do. You can earn more money, or it becomes some side gigs that you do if you're not in a role that you really are passionate about. But I would say the easiest way to earn a lot more money is just take more interest in what you're currently doing. And you'll generally earn more money. And so why am I talking about that now? I'm talking about that now because you have to understand that the Federal Reserve does not care how they will negatively impact your life. They don't. They assume that you are going to take the steps you need in order to insulate your life against their policies. And the fact is most people don't, because they spend more than they earn. And I was in that boat for many, many, many years, even working on Wall Street. I confused high income with net worth. And I've had high income for most of my life since I essentially was a teenager. You can make millions of dollars and live paycheck to paycheck. And that's sad when you're in that space. And I know many people that live like that. I lived like that for a long time myself. So the reason why I'm bringing this all up is that the Federal Reserve has made it clear that they want to slow down the American economy, and they want to see job growth slow. They want to see parts of the economy falter. They want to see businesses go out of business. They want to see economic growth slow down. And they're being very honest about it and very clear about it. And a lot of people are just either not taking them seriously or not understanding the importance of this. So I want everybody to realize that the Federal Reserve is doing everything they can to have layoffs, to make it so people can't afford to buy new houses. to make it so people slow down on their spending. They're doing everything in their power to slow down spending because that's a huge driver of inflation. And their belief is if they can suck money out of the system, if they can make credit more expensive, then they can bring down inflation. Now, will that work? It remains to be seen. How long will they stay with it? How aggressive will they be? If we look to the United Kingdom, the Bank of England, which is their central bank, up until very recently said, oh, we're raising rates, we're slowing down the economy. Well, guess what happened? They had their government come out with a budget cut, which freaked out the bond market. So people start dumping bonds, British bonds start dumping the British pound, and then interest rates start going up like crazy. Borrowing rates go up like crazy. And then things start breaking in the British economy. So there were several pension funds that had large positions in British bonds. These British bonds have been dropping 25, 50% over the last few months, putting these funds, because they bought them on leverage, meaning they borrowed money to buy these bonds, putting them at risk of going out of business. So Bank of England had to do a quick about face and then started buying bonds again, which is a loose monetary policy, which puts money back into the system. And so they did that. They stopped the damage that was going on there. And now the whole world thinks that, oh, okay, the Federal Reserve is going to look at the Bank of England. The Bank of England has given the Federal Reserve permission to stop raising rates, and now they can pivot. I think that's a faulty assumption at this point. The Bank of England and the Federal Reserve are two very, very different entities. The British pound is not the reserve currency it was 50 years ago. The reserve currency is the US dollar. And so it gives the Federal Reserve much more flexibility in terms of how high they can take rates. So rather than looking at Wall Street, which is telling you that the Fed is going to pivot soon, I think you need to look at the bond market, right? Rates are still high, suggesting that they're not going to come down any soon. There's not going to be an immediate pivot. And then look at inflation rates, which are still high. So I don't see how the Federal Reserve pivots early, pivot meaning they go from this, we're going to raise rates to we're going to cut rates. I don't see how that happens while inflation is still high. So this rally we're seeing in stocks is great, but it's an oversold rally. It's very rare that stocks just go down in a straight line and just keep going down day after day after day after day. Think of it like a rubber band. They get stretched so far that they bounce back. And so that's what's happening right now. We saw equities just get pummeled in September, and it got overdone. People got too bearish. So now we're just seeing the flip side of that. We're rallying back. How long will that rally last? I don't know. Will it last? I can't see how the rally can last if the Federal Reserve doesn't move to either a neutral stance or an accommodative stance in their monetary policy. And there's nothing that the Federal Reserve is saying that is suggesting they are going to change their stance. And so what do you do in a situation like that? Well, you raise cash, and then if you're looking at equities, you pick your spots where you want to get long. So that's exactly what I've done. I've done that with the S&P 500. I've done that with some individual stocks. We talked about that last week. This is the time where you get your shopping list ready and you say, wow, okay, here's a really great company, or here's a really terrific index, and the valuations are finally starting to make sense. So anytime I can buy the S&P 500 at 15 times earnings or less, I buy it, because I know over time I'm going to make money. As I look at the S&P 500, I look at where the estimates are and I say, okay, let's kind of give these estimates a bit of a haircut. This is what would be a 15 PE. And then I put my buy points there, or I sell put options against the S&P at that price point, because that's the price point I'm willing to buy at. And behind me it says, let the game come to you. But that's what that means. It means setting up the terms under which you will do business. And this is the beautiful thing about the stock market. You get to set the terms as to where you do business.
So that concludes today's episode. Thank you for listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section. You can find the show notes on www.tikatiwari.com. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with others, talk about it on social media, and leave a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss another episode. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.